British Society of Criminology Hate Crime Network, bringing the issues of hate crime to the forefront.
Welcome back to the British Society of Criminology Hate Crime Network podcast. Today, Rachel and I have the privilege to be joined by Professor Josep Tamarit, full Professor of Criminal Law at the Open University of Catalonia. He was awarded the Medal for Professional Merit in 2021 in recognition of his outstanding contributions to the field of criminal law.
Professor Josep Tamarit has previously served as the President of the European Society of Criminology and directed the Masters in Cybercrime at the Open University of Catalonia. With a research career spanning decades, he is considered one of Spain's key leaders for his work in victimology, restorative justice, and transitional justice. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Welcome to you.
So to start off, first of all, reflecting on your research, what are the limitations of the traditional criminal justice system in addressing hate crimes? And where does restorative justice offer a better path for healing community harm?
Well, the criminal justice system is designed to determine guilt and impose punishment that may satisfy some social expectations related to an old but still depth-rooted idea of justice, but it rarely addresses the emotional and psychological harm to crimes, to victims, the fear in the broader community or the damage to relationships and trust. We need to take into account that hate crimes aren't just law violations, they are identity-based attacks with consequences for people with lived trauma. With regard to victims, it is well known that those affected by crime are sidelined in criminal proceedings. They often have limited voice, and their needs, answers, acknowledgement, safety are secondary to legal strategy. Most remarkably, many victims of hate crimes want to ask why they were targeted or to have their pain directly acknowledged, things that courtroom rarely allows. Of course, it happens not only with hate crimes, but in particular, hate crimes involve layered harms such as personal trauma, extended fear among people who share the victim's identity, and dynamics reinforcing systemic oppression. And within a criminal process, conviction doesn't necessarily undo or even confront those deeper impacts. Another worry is related to offenders due to the limited capacity to change their behavior. Punishment alone fails to address underlying prejudice, does not promote genuine accountability or transformation, and even can reinforce defensiveness or resentment. And also regarding the community, communities targeted by hate crimes, usually marginalized communities, also experience over-policing, discrimination within the justice system, or fear of retaliation or disbelief, which leads to underreporting and disengagement. According to consistent research, underreporting is the first limitation, indeed, that prevents the criminal justice system to duly deal with hate crimes. And yes, restorative justice can offer a better path for healing community harm. Builds long-term community resilience as far as restorative justice processes can strengthen relationships, can empower communities to respond to harm collectively, and create shared norms against hate and exclusion. Restorative justice prioritizes victim voice, agency, community participation, and acknowledgement even of collective harm. So victims can explain how they were harmed and what they need to heal, whether that's an apology, reparative action, or public acknowledgement. Recognizing that hate crimes send a message of exclusion and fear to entire groups, That's also a point. A restorative process creates a space for communities to grieve, reclaim safety, and reaffirm these shared values, thus promoting collective healing process. Of course, we should always recall that restorative justice is not appropriate in every case, and this is why participation must be, of course, thoroughly voluntary.
Thank you for that. And I think thinking about that a little bit more, critics of restorative justice often highlight the risk of secondary victimisation and power imbalances. So based on your research, what specific safeguards, such as specific types of restorative circles, are most effective at empowering the victim while preventing further harm?
Regarding the risks of secondary victimization or malpractices, we all should be critics of restorative justice and any other well-intentioned but poorly timed intervention. Power imbalances is obviously an issue, a flag which signals those cases in which a restorative process could not be appropriate. But this warning should not be overrated. Restorative justice can reinforce imbalances, but it can also be used to address and to rectify the existing imbalances, empowering those harmed by the crime. In some way, inequality is intrinsic to hate crimes, so the transformative potential of restorative justice must be at the center of any intervention in those cases. The most effective ones are those that can help strengthen the position of the victim and the threatened group within the community, and challenge the moral values and attitudes of the offenders. That's why, better than a victim-offender dialogue, a more complex technique such as circle with members of the groups involved can be a more adequate or appropriate process to follow.
Thank you. And obviously, we're moving from the physical to the digital world now when it comes to hate crime. How does the conceptual nature of victimization change? Specifically, does a lack of physical presence in digital spaces alter the psychological impact on the victim or the way we define harm in victimology?
Yes, this is a good point. Indeed, the understanding of harm and victimization changes when we move to the digital world. I have heard many people say that it is worse to suffer slander, an insult, or a manipulated nude image on a social network than a physical assault, because the latter can heal. If this is the perception, understanding of what constitutes harm and what is more or less serious, from the perspective of a hate crime, the digital world has the potential of expanding the messages of threat and discrimination to reach the dimension of a collective victimization. It leads to normalization. This is a key word, of course, nowadays. The idea of normalization, but is paradoxical. Normalizing entails the risk of accepting, promoting, and disseminating deviant behaviors, but at the same time can generate a tolerance effect and even resilience. As far as we can consider social networks as an organized and established hate community, deviated behavior becomes the norm. Then deviation disappears. Bidirectional hate, in a context of polarization and extended toxicity in the networks, should not be a matter of criminal law then. But, of course, it can require restorative interventions.
Thank you for that. And I think there's significant debate, certainly in the UK, about making misogyny a hate crime. In Spain, gender-based violence has its own distinct and powerful legal framework. So, Ley Integral contra la Violencia de Género, I think I pronounced that right. How do these different legal frameworks, so labelling it as misogyny versus gender-based violence, change the way we support victims?
That's a good point. We can conceptualize misogyny as hostility or discrimination against women is a very general or broad concept. I know there is an ongoing debate in the United States now about whether misogyny should be recognized as a hate crime, but as far as I know, it has not been adopted into law and remains contentious and unresolved. The question is not that misogyny as a feeling or an attitude should be considered itself as a crime, in my vision, but if crimes motivated by misogyny should be treated as hate crimes. The experience in Spain is that hate or discriminatory motivation is an aggravating circumstance provided in the criminal code since 1995, when someone commits a crime. The penalty is aggravated when the judge thinks that this discriminatory or hated motivation occurs. The scope of this aggravation circumstance has been continuously expanded, and gender is among the motives explicitly considered provided in the law. So discrimination by motives of gender or age or any other vulnerability of the victim. Then a debate whether only vulnerable groups should be the target of positive discriminatory use of criminal law is in Spain developing. So there are people who retain that only vulnerable groups would be the target of those aggressions or crimes that can then have as a consequence the aggravation of penalty because of this circumstance. But other people think that it's not the vulnerability of the group targeted by the aggression, by itself the motivation. So when we find ourselves in front of misogyny or even the contrary, then it would be not if the victim is a man or a woman what would have as a consequence an increased penalty, but the motivation itself related to gender or to sex. This is an ongoing debate nowadays in Spain. And yes, we have the law on gender violence, and this is always an issue for debate and hard discussions among academicians and among professionals. A hate crime then can be considered as a valid ground for positive discrimination. Right? So the ground or the motive, the violence is the machism or the misogyny. We call it more misogyny, but machism or sexist violence. Then the Constitutional Court in Spain considered that there is not discrimination that implies a violation of the principle of equality. So the discussion is about when the violence can be considered as machista or gendered or sexist. There's a position who defends that is always machist or gendered when a man beats, kills, or rapes a woman. But there's another position who highlights the idea that it must be proven, so investigated and then proven in the criminal process. That's not a clear issue for us.
Thank you. And moving on to reporting, despite the rise in cyber hate, reporting remains incredibly low. What are the primary systematic barriers you've identified that prevent victims from reporting crimes to the authorities?
A first barrier is recognizing themselves as victims. But with regard to systemic barriers, I could mention lack of trust in institutions, fear of retaliation or escalation, normalization, anonymity, but more importantly, as a systemic barrier, the burden of proof. Content may disappear. Victims must collect screenshots, metadata, stamps, and policy may not accept digital evidence. That's a problem. We have identified this problem when someone reports a crime. The police does not accept the evidence if it is not presented in traditional means. And still, when digital platforms act as gatekeepers, victims are pushed to report content internally instead of to authorities. This has some advantages, but platform reporting tools are opaque or ineffective, and content removal is not justice, nor prevention of reoffending, nor accountability. Even this can create a false sense that something has been done, which is dangerous for an effective prevention.
And shifting slightly, you've been involved in recent research regarding video game environments. In your view, why are video games such a unique ecosystem for studying hate-motivated victimization?
Yes, we conducted a study based on a survey in which the experiences of video gamers were collected. Results indicated that a substantial proportion of players reported being subjected to hate-based insults, with political and racial victimization being the most frequent. Perpetration rates were significantly lower, but even show strong associations between different types of offenses. We identified a significant victim-offender overlap, showing that individuals who experience victimization are more likely to engage in perpetration. So these findings underscore the cyclical nature of online hate behaviors and highlight the need for targeted interventions to address both victimization and perpetration within gaming communities.
Yeah, thank you. And another research that your team's working on at the moment is hate directed at sex workers. How does the conflict between traditional social morals and the reality of sex work influence the way society and the law defines a hate crime in this context?
Yes, we are conducting now a research project on victimization of sex workers. We interviewed people who are engaged in the paid sex, not only women, but also men and transgender people. Of course, it's already known violence against these people has not been conceptualized usually as a hate crime, but stigma is a key issue according to consistent research, and we have found that most of them have been victims of violence. In particular, we found that homicides of sex workers are usually characterized by extreme and brutal expressions of violence, and we found that violence in those cases or murder cases, violence is usually not instrumental but expressive violence. So in most cases, offenders use multiple stab wounds or commit multiple stab wounds, acts of mutilation on the body of the victims. So they express stigma when they kill women that are sex workers, using their bodies, both using their bodies and punishing their blame bodies. That's a key issue that we have found in our research with sex workers.
And regarding your work with sex workers, do you think the social stigma surrounding their profession acts as a systemic barrier that prevents them from even identifying as victims of a hate crime?
Yes, I do think so. Again, here we find ourselves with a paradox, or better, a double harm. So, sex workers are victimized due to the social stigma, and the stigma prevents society from recognizing them as victims and giving them support. We have found also cases in which victims of violence, victims murdered or attempted to be killed by clients or other people, then found difficulties when they decided to report crimes. That is not usual, but when they decided to report crimes, they found multiple obstacles, multiple barriers in the police, even in the medical examinations and other to collect evidences for gaining a conviction in a court.
And finally, for our listeners, based on your current research, what is a one policy change you would recommend to better support victims of hate crimes?
It's always difficult to say one policy change. Increasing punitive pressure by continuously reforming laws, expanding behaviors defined as criminal, or increasing penalties will not be the path to follow. Instead, better will be to make all what is possible to make the problem visible, using restorative justice around the world. But for instance, in Spain, we do not have advanced in this direction.
Thank you so much for that answer. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Professor Tamarit, thank you for joining us today. Your insights into hate crime within gaming and towards sex workers and the complex intersection of social morality and victimhood have really provided what I hope is a really critical and vital perspective for our network and for our listeners. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much to you. We're giving voice to the research, criminological research in hate crimes done in other countries.
Thank you for listening. We encourage you to continue the discussion by visiting the British Society of Criminology Hate Crime Network website or on our social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn and Blue Sky, where you can find resources, publications and information on our upcoming events.